45. Risa. When Risa wakes up, she feels a bit stronger, strong enough to explore and test her immediate surroundings. The bedroom is, of course, locked from from the outside. A view from the window reveals that they are still at a high altitude, and it's the trailing end of twilight, or dawn. Risa has no concept of the actual time or how many time zones they've flown through. There's a small table across the room with food for her. Light flare, Danish, and such. She eats in spite of her resistance to accept anything offered her. When the black marketer comes back, he's pleased to see she's eaten, which makes her just want to throw it all up in his face. I can give you the grand tour if you like, Duvan offers. I'm a prisoner, she reminds him flatly. Why would you give a prisoner a tour? I do not have prisoners, he tells her. I have guests. Is that what you call the kids you unwind? Guests? He sighs. No, I don't call them anything. If I did, it would make my work all the more difficult, you see. He holds out his hand to help her up, but she will not take it. Is there a reason why I'm a guest and not one of them? He smiles. You'll be pleased to know, Miss Ward, that the clients of mine who are interested in you are only interested in your corpus totus. That is, in your entirety. Isn't it nice to know that of all the souls on board, you're the only one worth more whole than divided? Somehow, that doesn't give her much comfort. What sorts of clients buy someone's corpus totus? Wealthy ones with a penchant towards collecting. There's a Saudi prince in particular who's been obsessed with you. He made overtures in the millions. She tries to hide her revulsion. Imagine that. Don't worry, Duvan tells her. I'm less motivated to make a deal than you might think. He holds his hand out to her once more, and again she refuses to take it. She does stand up, however, and moves to the door. You'll find the tour very eye-opening, to say the least. Duvan says, unlocking the door. And on the way, you can entertain yourself by scheming ways to escape and ways to kill me. She makes eye contact with him for the first time, a bit shocked, because that is exactly what she was thinking. The look he returns is much warmer than she wants it to be. Don't be so surprised, he says. How could I not know what you'd be thinking right now? Aside from the constant drone of the engines and the occasional turbulence, it is hard to believe that this is all crammed into a single airplane. The bedroom opens up into a vaulted living area, its geometry divided by the plane's width and the dome of the fuselage. There are sofas, a dining table, and a multi-screened entertainment center. The kitchen and the pantry are below, Duvan says. My chef is world-class. At the far end of the room, dominating the space, is something Risa needs time to wrap her mind around. It's an instrument. A pipe organ. However, instead of gleaming brass pipes, this one has faces. Dozens of faces. Impressive, isn't it? Duvan says with pride. I purchased it from a Brazilian artist who had apparently made a career at working in flesh. He claims his artwork is to protest unwinding, but I ask you, how much of a protest can it be if he uses the unwound for his art? Risa is drawn to the thing like a spectator to a car accident. She's seen this before in a dream, she thought, a dream that kept recurring. Only now does she realize that the dream had a grounding in reality. Something she once saw on TV, although she can't place exactly when. He calls it organo organico, the organic organ. Each shaved head rests inert, symmetrically placed above the keyboard, on multiple levels connected to it by tubes and ducts. It's the very definition of abomination. Risa finds it too grotesque to even trigger the proper emotion, too horrifying to feel. Slowly she reaches forward and pushes down on a key, and directly in front of her, a disembodied face opens its mouth and voices a perfect middle C. Risa yelps and jumps back, right into Duvan. He gently holds her by the shoulders, but she pulls free. Nothing to fear, he tells her. I assure you the brains are elsewhere, probably helping rich Brazilian children to think better, although the eyes do open from time to time, which can be disconcerting. Finally, Risa tries to voice her own opinion, and it's far from middle C. This thing is unthinkable, I know. Even I was taken aback when I first viewed it. and yet the more I looked at it, the more compelled I was to have it. Such lovely voices should be heard, yes? And I am not without a sense of irony. The Lady Luxurizia is my Nautilus, and I, like the good Captain Nemo, must have my organ. Although Risa is turned away, she finds her gaze drawn back to it, compelled to look at it, terrified of the prospect that it might look back. Won't you play it? He asks her. I can't do it justice, and I understand you're quite the accomplished pianist. I'd cut off my hands before I touched that thing again. Get me away from it. Of course, said Divan, ever obliging, but noticeably disappointed. He directs her to a stairwell across the room. The tour continues this way. Risa can't get away from the Orgao Organico fast enough. Yet, as Divan said, the image lingers along with a strange, compelling sensation, like standing on a high ledge and leaning over, tempting gravity to steal one's balance. As horrified as she is by the 88-faced monstrosity, she's more horrified by the thought that she might actually want to play it. They leave the comfort of his flying chalet, moving to the nether regions of the behemoth aircraft, into corridors and gangways without polished wood or leather, only utilitarian aluminum and steel. The harvest camp takes up the front 2/3 of the Lady Lucrezia. You'll be impressed by the economy of space. Why, she asks. Why are you showing me all this? What possible purpose could it serve? Divan pauses before a large door. It is my belief that the sooner you get beyond your initial shock, the sooner you will reach a place of comfort. I'll never be comfortable with any of this. He nods, perhaps accepting her statement, but not its validity. If there's one thing I understand well, it's human nature, he says. We are all pinnacle species. We are the pinnacle species, are we not? This is because we have a remarkable ability to adapt, not just physically, but emotionally, psychologically. He reaches for the door handle. You are a consummate survivor, Risa. I have every faith that you will adapt in glorious ways. Then he swings the door open. Risa was, as part of her stay-at-home enrichment program, once taken to a factory that manufactured bowling balls, mainly because it was the only factory convenient enough to take stay-home kids. What impressed Risa was the complete lack of human involvement. Machines did everything, from extruding the rubber core, to polishing the outer layer, to drilling the holes, to computer-precise specifications. The moment Risa crosses the threshold, she realizes that Divan does not run a harvest camp at all. He runs a factory. There are no cheery dormitories, no high-energy counselors. Instead, there's a huge drum, at least 20 feet in diameter, lining the shell of the airplane, inset with more than 100 niches. In those niches lie unwinds, like bodies in a catacomb. Do not be deceived by appearances, Divan tells her. They rest on beds of the highest quality silk, and the machines tend to their every needs. They are kept well-nourished and spotlessly clean, but they're unconscious, semi-conscious. They are administered a mild sedative that keeps them in a twilight state perpetually at the moment, between dreams and waking. It's very pleasant. At the far end of the cylindrical space is a huge black box, about the size of an old world iron lung. Risa shuts her thought process down before she can imagine its purpose. Where's Connor? He's here, Divan tells her, gesturing vaguely to the chamber of unwinds around them. I want to see him. Unwise, another time perhaps. You mean after he's unwound? For your information, he will not be unwound for several days at least. Auctioning off the parts of the Akron AWOL is a major affair. It takes time to get all my ducks in a row. She looks at the semi-conscious unwinds all around her and finds herself feeling weak at the knees again, and as she did when she still had tranks in her system. Meanwhile, Divan strolls through the space with carefree confidence. The Burmese daze represent the darkest end of what you call the black market. Slow unwinding without anesthesia and in insanitary conditions. Deplorable. I, on the other hand, strive for something better. I give these unwinds a quality of treatment finer than any officially sanctioned harvest camp. Comfortable repose, electrical stimulation that painlessly tones their muscles, and a continual sense of euphoria as they await their unwinding. Many world leaders have purchased parts from me, although they would never admit it, including several from your country, I might add. The drum suddenly comes to life and begins to rotate around them, repositioning the unwinds. A mechanical arm reaches over to check on one of them with the gentle care of a mother's touch. Is the tour over? If it's not, I don't care. I've seen enough. Devon takes her back to the living area, and she casts her eyes away from the organ, although she catches its reflection in a mirror. When they reach her bedroom, someone there is making her bed. He begins to work faster when he sees them. Almost done, sir. The man seems frail and a bit fearful, as if he were caught doing something he shouldn't. He doesn't appear to be much older than Risa. When he turns to glance at her, she's taken aback by his appearance. Part of his face is missing, and in its place is form-fitting bio-bandage, a paler pink than actual skin, covering his eye socket and most of his right cheek. He looks somewhat like the Phantom of the Opera with only one eye. The left side of his face doesn't look much better, having several scars that seem somewhat fresh. Your henchman, I presume, Risa says. Devon is actually insulted. I am not so arch as to have henchmen. This is Skinner, my valet. Risa gives up a bitter grin in spite of herself. How appropriate that you call him Skinner. Merely serendipity, Devon says. That's his actual name. Skinner leaves quickly, obsequiously closing the door behind him. Then it occurs to Risa that Skinner is also Grace's last name. Could this be the troublesome brother that she kept talking about? The more she pictures the half of his face that she could see, the more she's convinced there's a resemblance. What do you want from me? Risa asks Devon, although she's afraid to hear the answer. Something simple, he tells her, at least for you. I wish you to play the organico for me. I have no talent for it, and it begs to be played by one with the skill. He lets the proposition hang in the air. Risa can't dare to imagine herself sitting before the thing. No matter how well I play, you'll tire of the music and of me, Risa tells him. What happens to me then? If our arrangement proves no longer viable, I shall let you go. In how many pieces? Devon rolls her eyes at her skepticism. Risa, I am not a bad man. My business may be unsavory, but I am not. Consider the cattle farmer who raises Kobe beef. Is he to be condemned because his stock must be slaughtered? Of course not. I'm no different. I just provide a different nature of product, and I provide it in a manner far more humane. He begins to walk toward her. Unlike my associate who captured you, I have been able to separate myself from my work. She sidesteps, refusing to be made to back up, but still maintaining a safe distance between them. Your choices are simple, he tells her. You can choose to stay here, or you can choose to be auctioned. Here, I can promise you peace, patience, and respect, which is more than I can say for the Saudi prince. The veiled threat has the desired effect, and in spite of herself, Risa feels a sense of claustrophobia closing in around her. Still, she pulls forth the courage to make her own proposition. I'll do what you want under one condition. Yes? You let Connor go. Devon claps his hands together, overjoyed. Excellent. The mere fact that you've entered negotiations is a step in the right direction. Unfortunately, freeing Connor is not an option. In that case, you can go to hell. Devon is not offended, only amused. I'll give you time to reconsider. In the meantime, I have another high-profile unwind to auction off. Risa can't help but ask, who is it? America's most wanted, he answers. I paid proactive citizenry a small fortune for him, but the profit I'll make will be worth it. There are many people out there who will like to own a piece of Mason Michael Starkey. Argent, 46, Argent. He must be smart, he must be shrewd, but more than anything else, he must be obedient. I pitied you, Devon told him after the good half of his face had been harvested and given to Nelson. Anyone else would have unwound the rest of you, but it's rare that I feel true pity. So I chose to act on it. Pity, however, was not accompanied by charity. Rather than replacing the missing half of Argent's face, Devon had it patched with the bio-bandage, like spackle over damaged drywall. What you need is too expensive to give away for free, Devon had said, but if you work for me for 6 months, you will earn your choice of faces from my supply. Then you can choose to either continue as my valet or return to the life you led. Although Argent didn't say it, he had no intention of ever returning to the life he had led. A new life, perhaps, in a new city with a new face. But having settled in on the Lady Lucrezia, Argent's beginning to think that he will live, his will to live will be so sapped in 6 months' time, he'll choose to say. He tries not to think about it instead. He just buries himself doing his daily tasks, which consists of cleaning messes, washing clothes, and being Devon's audience for lectures about life. Devon loves nothing more than to hear himself pontificate, and Argent is the perfect audience because he never disagrees, nor does he ever have an opinion of his own. In fact, he's come to see lack of opinion as a key element of his job description. The arrival of Connor Lassiter, however, has been a major monkey wrench in Argent's mental gearwork. Argent watched from a window as Nelson made the transfer right there on the runway. The sight of Nelson wearing the good half of Argent's face as his own was such a violation. It made Argent's loins feel weak. He thought he hated Connor for what he had done to him, but that pales in comparison to how much he hates Nelson. He was afraid that Nelson would be invited on board along with his catch, but Devon didn't do that. Nelson is a fine parts pirate, perhaps the best, Devon told Argent, but that doesn't mean I care for his company. Even so, Devon promised to personally deliver him Connor's eyes. As the harvester is fully automated, members of Devon's staff rarely go inside. Even the medic charged with caring for the kids awaiting unwinding rarely goes in, because the machine does all the work. Lyle, the medic, doesn't know that Argent replaced his spare key with the spare key to Devon's private bath. Occasionally, when he knows that the harvester isn't being monitored, Argent sneaks off with his pilfered key and goes down to look at the unwinds there, imagining their stories and what their lives were like, imagining what it might be like to have one of their faces for his own. He's only 3 years beyond legal unwinding age, but it feels so much older. It'll be nice when he can get himself a useful face again. Today, however, when he comes to the harvester, he has a different objective. While Devon lines up bidders from around the world on the screens of his entertainment center, Argent slips into the harvester, locates Connor within the cylindrical grid of unwinds, and rotates the drum until he's right there beside Argent. Then, Argent disconnects him from the machine's monitoring system and shuts off the constant sedative drip that keeps him in that blissful semi-conscious state. This is all your fault, you hear me? Connor's response is just some lazy, incoherent babbling, but that will pass. Nelson did this to me on the way to you. He would never have done it if you didn't do what you did first. He smacks Connor hard enough to make him stir. Why'd you have to do it? We could have been a team. He hits him harder this time. We could have done great things. Outlaws with style. But now, I don't even get to have a face. Just a scarred mess on one side and a whole lot of nothing on the other. Then he grabs Connor and shakes him. Where's my sister, damn it? Connor turns to face him, blinking, yawning, seeing him for the first time. Argent? Where's Gracie? If you let Nelson hurt her, I swear I'll kill you. Connor doesn't seem to process everything he's saying yet. If you're here, I must be in hell, Connor says. Yeah, you could say that. Connor tries to sit up and bumps his head on the roof of his narrow niche. Argent hopes it hurts. I woke you to tell you that you've been caught and are going to be unwound. Not that I care, but you deserve to know. Devon's got Risa too, but by the looks of it, she'll stay whole. Risa's here? He got Risa? Who's Devon? Argent feels no need to repeat himself. He punches Connor in the side hard. Connor is still too weak to defend himself, and that suits Argent just fine. Thought you were smart, smashing my face like you did? Well, how smart are you now, huh? And where's my sister? Antique shop, mumbles Connor. That's where I last saw her. Connor lifts his arms weakly. What am I wearing? It feels like I'm covered in spiderweb. It's an iron microfiber bodysuit, kind of like long underwear, but you can be unwound in it. They call them long divisions. Suddenly, the drum of unwinds grinds into life on its own accord, and Connor is rotated away. It makes a quarter turn and stop. Then a pair of mechanical arms unfold, and like an old-fashioned jukebox choosing a record, they lift and unwind and place her on a short conveyor belt leading to the door of the unwinding chamber, a place that Argent hopes he never sees the inside of. Argent knows what will come next. She'll regain consciousness, find that she can't move, and she'll cry for help, but no one will answer. Then, once the machine deems she's fully conscious, the door of the unwinding chamber will open and the conveyor belt will roll her in. They must be fully conscious, or it isn't unwinding, Devon once told him. It must be painless and humane, but they must be aware of what's happening to them every step of the way. Argent once stood beside a kid trying to calm him down, telling him that his parents really loved him after all, and all that kind of comforting crap. But the kid just panicked, and in the end went into the chamber just like the rest of them. Argent didn't try talking to any of them after that. Once the drum comes to rest, Argent locates Connor again and manually rotates him back. What's happening? Connor asks, speaking a little more clearly than he had just a few minutes ago. Today's auction, Argent explains. 4 kids go on the block today, fewer than usual, but number 4 is where the big money is. Devon will auction off the first 3 to get the bidders all hot for the main event. And it'll be the same for you when it's your turn. You're even more screwed than I am now. I hope you like it. Then he shoves Connor for good measure, starts the sedative drip, and leaves. It never occurs to him that Connor is still awake enough to pull the IV out of his arm.